2 hours later.
Oh, what fun we are having. So, thanks for telling me the camera thing had shut off. So I had to come back and start it. $165, this is the long one. That guy goes right there. Right there. Now it doesn't hurt to sand these, just the tips where you're going to glue them. Just kind of rough them up a little bit if you can. If you can get away with it. If you got the time. Always try to get these things to penetrate about halfway through the foam. And then when I glue it, I'll show you here in just a second. When I glue it, I'll rotate it a tad to try to get that glue to walk around. I used to glue first and then try to put them in because I want to glue down in that slot and everything. But man, I'll tell you what, that's just bit me in the tail too many times. Where I'd have something dry on me too fast or whatever. See, I'll turn that about 180 degrees after I glue both ends. And what we're wanting there is we're wanting that glue to get carried all the way down in there and around the joint. Okay. And I'm going to do my best not to use accelerator on those because I don't want to create that hard shell like I was explaining earlier. Okay. 364. This is a pretty crucial part here. You want to be extremely mindful of what you're doing as you're installing the rods. You're dealing with millimeters, sometimes half a millimeter. If you pull and glue too hard on one rod, it can make the whole thing uneven. I actually forgot one of my rules when I build these things because it has been such a long time. Normally, I will put in a rod on the left side of the plane and I will put the same rod on the right. Then I will go back over to the left and install a rod and go over to the right and install the same rod. Until I was almost to the very end, I had completely forgotten about that step. What it does is it helps you build a balanced aircraft. If you install all the rods on the left side and then you go install all the rods on the right side, you'll find in some cases, most cases, your plane is going to be a little lopsided. You may not be able to see it as much as you will be able to tell it when you fly. And I'm not going to glue up here at this major junction yet, because you'll have glues run over and get into some of your other holes, and then you'll be over there trying to cut and drill and
Little later.
double up on that one. Might hit this one again. Because that's the one thing, man, if you don't glue these things well, you're going to be having these things pop out on you every time you try to fly. So when I come back to square this up, if you've got that all glued and you don't get it just right, you'll start getting this snake looking thing going down your fuselage. So there again, that's why, another reason why I wait to glue those things. Now once these dry, you know, we can kind of manhandle things a little bit harder than what we normally have to. So when we want to start getting these things straightened up, see, right now it's just not the time. I'm trying to show and tell right now at the wrong time.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So we're going to let that kind of sizzle and cook for a minute. And while we do that, I'm going to look at here. Boy, it has been a long time since I've done one of these. We've got a 186 up front and 212 going back to the back. These here are the 186s that come up to the front. This is the 212 that goes back to the back. So, again,
$24 later.
I'm going to go ahead and run this through the top. Let's see here. Don't have a lot hanging out there. Dadgummit. The trials and tribulations of building these things, you know, there's not a lot of people showing you how to build them. Get that guy in there. It's our 212. Now, I don't know if you can tell by watching this video, but the fuselage is starting to want to pull up a little bit, right? Now, what I like to do, this foam here is the same thickness of the wing. I'll put it underneath the fuselage so that wing is the same or the fuselage at the same elevation, because you know that's on top of our wing, right? And you want to make sure that your fuse doesn't start walking on you, or your wings don't start walking on you as you glue these things here down and things start to cure. You want to make sure that you don't have anything pulling. And see, we still have we still can make that final adjustment up here to pull that stuff back down once we get all that up. I just really don't understand how they expect you to glue these in as you're installing them without creating just massive problems for yourself. And I probably just used way too much glue. I was looking around and wasn't paying attention to what I was doing. You know, with glues, less is more. They hold better with less glue. It's lighter, it's prettier. However, when this cures and dries, I will flip it over and I'll hit that from the opposite side, because we need all the help we can get here. Everything looks good and true and straight. The fuselage through this front part is beautiful. When this dries, I will go ahead and I'm going to come back and I'm going to run down the side of my fuse, and I'm going to seat my glue joints. And make sure that that's all rock solid. Hopefully that'll help a little bit. I'm nervous about putting CA accelerator on here, but and I can preach it all day, but I still over glue with these things, and I do it because I'm, you know, man, they're just so fragile, and I always have problems like everybody else does, I reckon. With knocking my carbon rods loose. Man, I had a vector thrust reversible pitch motor system. I think I sold it. That would have really went nice on the front of this thing. That stuff smells good. I may seem like I contradict myself when it comes to gluing, because I always say don't glue too much, less is more, which is the truth. However, with these little carbon fiber rod and foam airplanes, you do need to glue very well. When you're applying the glue, when you're installing the rod for the first time, or you know, when you're installing the rod, you want to use very small little drops just enough so it will hold, it will dry quickly and dry all the way through. On occasion, you'll see me accidentally put a little bit too much glue, and I'll have to come in with that accelerator that I hate to use to get it to dry so I can continue forward, because when you pull on one will pop out and it'll start this domino effect. But if you don't remember anything, remember this: after the plane is glued, let's say all on the bottom side, before you flip it over, go back, re-glue each one of those joints, then flip it over and re-glue each one of those joints from the top. Even if it's where the carbon rod sticks into the foam, put a little dot on top of the foam, take a needle, poke a hole, and let it start seeping down through there. You want to make sure that each one of those joints is glued to the best of your ability, because every time you grab this plane, every time you move this plane, it's inevitable you're going to hit these little rods and they will bust loose if they're not glued very well. And this kit won't be calling for it, but it will happen. If you ever cut the carbon fiber rods, always make sure right after you cut them to use CA on the tip so they don't start splitting on you. I will never use pliers to cut them. I don't use razor blades to cut them. I always use a Dremel tool with a thin cutting disc, and I will roll the carbon fiber rod as I'm cutting, not just try to push through from one side. And as soon as I get through with that, I'll put some super glue on the tip of the piece that I'm using, and I'll put some super glue on the tip of the piece that I am sitting down for later.
Thank you for your patronage.